Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 13, Parting Shot. I definitely got to start off by saying the promo for this episode did zero justice for how things happened and how, what this episode really ended up representing by the end. And it really surprised me because the villain, it was like, oh, it's this really cool shadow villain type thing. That was like the last 10, 15 minutes maybe of the episode. And everything else was about Bobbi and Hunter, whose real name is, I believe he said Amadeus Ravenclaw Hunter, which I thought was hilarious, unless that is for some reason his actual name, which would be even crazier to me, but I thought that was really funny. But it was crazy that it was, it took a focus on them, and I just thought, oh, this will be a cool episode. It's about Hunter and Bobbi, and it's, them in their relationship, because we've known the relationship since they got introduced, and how they've been on and off a lot of different times. Now they're on currently, and Hunter's a part of the team officially now after everything that happened with Coulson when he was kind of on the run, and Hunter was the one that helped him out, and officially that was when he officially joined Shield, and just everything that played out, I was like, all right, this is a really cool episode, and it's about these two characters and who they are as a part of Shield, and how they are a thing with with each other, but it's an odd balance, and they can't really be as much as Hunter might want them to be because they're a part of Shield, and I did not expect that to be subtle foreshadowing about how, oh, we can't really do this or that if we're part of Shield, and then it ends with them no longer being a part of Shield, which of course really sucks because I love both those characters. I think Bobbi has become like probably people's favorite character ever since she's been introduced. It's kind of been like she kind of overtook May as like everybody's favorite, I think. And she's an awesome character. I love Hunter as a character. He's of course hilarious. And this episode was no different. Him talking about mushrooms and stuff. But it really blew me away that they actually ended this episode the way that they did. But it was a really great episode. Um, just going through, it seemed like it was fairly normal. Like I said, it was just about them. They were doing a mission. They were doing kind of jumps back and forth. And it's like, all right, it starts off with the two of them being busted. And when it did that, I assumed it was like, okay, well, they got busted. How are they going to get out of this? Because I just assumed that they were alone on the mission still, wherever they ended up landing. And then, they do the flashbacks, and it starts off with them alone, but the rest of the team kind of joins them and everything. And it's just like, how did the two of them, end up getting captured? So I like the way that it all played out because I was still very curious because once everyone was involved in the mission, I was like, how is it that of all the people, just, only two get caught? And they kind of did in a really good way. Like, everyone's like, all right, we take this person this way, and, the, I guess the dark image or whatever, like the dark force, sort of physical image is going after Hunter. So it's like, all right, I believe it was Sky had to, or Daisy, I haven't called her Sky in a while. Daisy had to get Mac out of there, so it's like, you do that, Bobbi goes after Hunter, and they ultimately, um, defeat this thing, because I guess technically she goes after the general, and she takes him down, and so that defeats, his inhuman ability, and they save, I believe it was the Prime Minister is the guy that they saved. And I was still so confused by how there were so many issues and how they were blamed for all these different things. And ultimately, it did come down to they can't say they're a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. And despite them having saved anyone, it's the giant question of you were the only two that were really captured, and why were you there to begin with? So it was like it really sucked that they couldn't say that, and of course, Shield doesn't exist, and that's because Shield is seen as a terrorist organization, so they can't still use Shield as like, hey, we're working for Shield, we came in to protect you. Despite that having been the case, there were still dead bodies and stuff, and Malik escaped, and they killed the other guy, which was surprising. The guy that wanted to make the sanctuary for Inhumans, he actually ended up becoming a bad guy, like in this episode, which really surprised me. And it was like he was already on board with killing people and stuff, and I was just surprised by that. But Malik wanted to kind of create a coup and cause a lot of different issues, and I think it worked in an odd way. Of course, not the way that he planned, but of course, it forced Shield to get rid of two of their greatest members, and that means we lost two great characters from a show. So I love the way that it all played out. As usual, the action was pretty cool. I really loved the Inhuman ability. I thought the ghost thing was actually, or kind of the dark shadow image figure was actually very cool. I personally wish it lasted a bit longer. I wish he was the like main issue that they faced for much more of the episode, especially since they killed him, because it was such a cool thing. Like when it was physical, you could, counter it and stuff, and Bobby did that when she like flips it over, and then it just like fades into the wall or into the floor, and I was like, this is very cool. Like just visually, the way it looked was awesome. When they were all like shooting at it when it first showed up in front of Mac, and I believe Bobby like shot at it first, and then Daisy uses her abilities on it, and it just visually looked pretty cool. It's like it was warping, but it wasn't like dissipating or anything like that, and it just stayed there, and it couldn't be touched unless it really wanted to be touched. And I just thought that was actually very cool, like the way they did it, and like when it shot through the ground. It was probably one of my favorite parts when it shot through the ground and knocked Daisy into the ceiling, and then it actually flies through her and actually goes into the ceiling. I just thought it looked really cool. I was like, this is visually a very cool figure, I guess is the best way to describe it. But I do wish it lasted much longer than it did. I wish it kind of chased them around, because the way I thought it was is that Hunter and Bobby were on their mission, and then somehow an Inhuman got to the actual S.H.I.E.L.D. compound. That's what I thought it was when I was watching the trailer. That's kind of how they played it, where it was like an Inhuman got into the base somehow, or even found the base. And because it was a shadow figure, it seemed easy enough. Like someone could turn into a shadow and attach to another person. And it's like, how do they defeat this shadow? And then the other half was going to be like Bobbi and Hunter. And then maybe they would do their mission and then ultimately get back to the base, and maybe it would have followed them or something. That's how it seemed like it was in the promo. It was like, nope, they're all in like Russia and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, of course, it was very sad. The ending, I almost cried. I was like, man, they're gonna make me cry. I've never been so sad watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But the ending was very sad. They do the spies goodbye, which is a very great scene, and everyone, lists up their shots and everything. And then Mac was just there, and he was like tearing up. And it looked that way too, because when he first did it, I was like, it looks like he's about to cry more than anyone else. And then they go back to him, and he is the last person there. And I was like, man, that was a really well done shot, and it made me super sad. But I was like, man, it was a very great scene that they had, and everyone's just around in different spots of the bar, of course, and they can't really come up to them anymore. But it was a great way to kind of end off two great characters. Very sad, of course. Very surprising, because I don't think any of us knew. I mean, I'm sure there was news out there that they were gonna be leaving the show, but of course, I don't like to look into stuff, because this is like one of the episodes where you would want to know nothing. You wouldn't want to know like these two characters are leaving the show, but they did a great job with the way they did it. Ultimately, it does suck. It feels like it's so early, because it's like I feel like they haven't really been in the show that much, but I guess technically they have been in there for 2 seasons. It's weird to think that this is technically the third, and I always forget, like oddly enough, with the way this season and the last season were, I kind of forget how the characters came in, but I guess they were technically both introduced in the last season, so they've been around for most of the show, technically, because it's only in the third season, so they've been in there for 2/3. But it's so early to be getting rid of characters, and they did that before, of course. They did it with Trip, and he actually died. So they've kind of done well with that, where they've done some surprising departures from the show. The first being Trip, because it seemed like he was going to be a main part of the team, and then he actually died. And then we have, of course, Bobbi and Hunter in this episode. So they've definitely done a good job as far as departures and surprising departures, because it was the last thing I thought was going to happen. And when Coulson kind of did his final speech, and he was like, they don't work for, when they first said that, I didn't really catch the idea, like, oh, they don't work for anyone, and so they've been disavowed and they can't go on missions. It didn't really dawn on me when they said, like, oh, they don't work for any government agency. I thought he was just saying that, like, because S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist, and he was actually, because I thought he convinced the guy, like, oh, they saved your life, and so they're able to just go free, and they're totally fine. And in a sense, that is what happened, but I just didn't pick up on the fact that, they don't work for any American agency and never will, meant that they can't go on missions, because, of course, there's going to be more missions involved with a lot of different countries. You never know who's going to see who, and, of course, when something like that happens, either of them are seen again on some crazy random mission, then you know that things are going on, of course, so very sad to lose really two great characters. I love all the characters in this show, and I think they had a very interesting dynamic because they're technically like the only relationship in the series. Like Fitzsimmons have their weird thing, and they aren't officially together because of everything that's happened recently. So they're still kind of building on that. And Daisy and Lincoln are still, they're in a relationship, but of course they're so brand new. It's not, and plus Lincoln, they're still kind of introducing as far as like an actual member of the team, so he's not in like every episode. So with Bobbi and Hunter, it was like the relationship stuff, but they're also just really great characters in their own right outside of being a couple. They're just really awesome characters. Bobby's like the awesome new action character, and Hunter has had some pretty good fights, but he's definitely, the funny guy who's definitely really funny. So really sucks to lose them both, but definitely a well done ending. Really surprising ending too, because like I said, it seemed like it was just a normal mission. They couldn't stop Malik, but ultimately how everything played out, it worked through, and they had like May, as a good scene with May and Hunter, where she's like, I don't really trust you because of what I mentioned in the last episode, where he does basically whatever. It's like he will go off mission to get revenge on someone, and she brings that up like, I was there when you were in one of those positions where because he gives a great speech where it's like being on a team means you like sacrifice what you want for your friends, and she's like, you didn't do that. You didn't sacrifice anything for me because I was there, and you were willing to basically let my ex-husband die in order to get revenge. So I love the fact that she brought that stuff up. Like, you say that, but that's not what you did when I was actually there right next to you. So they had a great moment where he kind of realizes the error of his ways and stuff like that. So very well done for their characters. Really sad to see him go. Can't say that enough. It seems way too early especially to get rid of two characters at once. But of course, with them being a couple, if it was only one, they would have had to have died, I would assume. But definitely a good episode. Of course, want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. Excuse me. And of course, I have to ask how you guys feel about the departure of two really great characters. There were talks about them getting like their own spin-off show, but I believe that was kind of canceled off like a while back, where there's like that's not actually going to happen. But man, it really is crazy to see two characters go at once, especially when it's so surprising. Because they mentioned, and that was like in the promo, I guess, where it was like who's going to leave, S.H.I.E.L.D. forever. And I completely forgot about that because I don't believe it was in like the actual promo. They may have done it last week and I just didn't remember. But they did it before the episode came on, like who's gonna say goodbye to S.H.I.E.L.D. forever. And I was like, they're gonna say that, but it's not really gonna happen. And then I was like, nope, it actually happened, and it was two characters at once. So it still really surprised me because whenever they do that, like someone's not gonna make it, it's always like they seemingly die or there's a weird transition. Like I think they did that with Andrew when he became Lash or something. Like someone's gonna be, killed off or something like that, and it turned out he didn't die. It was just that he was Lash and stuff like that. So definitely a crazy ending. But I hope that there's some possible way to get these characters back because they're really both very awesome characters. But sad to see him go. But it was a pretty fun episode. Like I said. Definitely want to know how you guys feel about their departure. Did you expect them to be gone? Did you expect them to die maybe instead of have like... Personally, I do think this is a happy ending because they could have done it where they, got killed, which would have been like a devastating ending if they like actually got sent to trial and were like sentenced to death or something crazy. That would have been devastating, a devastating way to do it. But nice. I'm trying to think of what it is. I can't think. It's like where it's sad and happy. I totally can't think of the words I'm looking for. But definitely a great ending. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, though. And, of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below. Let me know. And thanks for watching.